So it's Lisa Starr with you, live in Milano from the Wellness Hospitality Conference. I'm happy to be joined by the founder of the conference, Matteo Brusaferri from Lemmy Group. Welcome and thank you for joining us in my recording studio.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
So this is year 3 of the conference. There are 600 registrants. It's a who's who of wellness hospitality in Europe, really, not just Italy. Where did the idea for this come from, Matteo?
So the idea came from all the travel and all the conferences that I was doing and I'm attending regularly. And what I was seeing is that there's always like few Italian attending these kind of conferences, but most of the time they're very interesting topics and very good, like a very big know-how that it's really important for this industry. And I thought that there was a need on the market to bring this kind of topics here in Italy for all the Italian industry. So we decided together with Mauro to create this conference like 3 years ago. And it was a success from the beginning, actually, and it's keep growing and growing because we doubled last year and now we are plus 50% attendance more or less this year. So we're doing really, really well with this conference. I'm really happy of the feedbacks that I'm getting from all the professional workings in this industry and all of our customers that are attending and all of the people from all over the world actually right now coming because we have people from US, people from Dubai, people from UK, from everywhere coming here in Milan. So it's really satisfying to see so many people coming in our country to attend this conference.
Well, you can't get any hospitality better than in Italy, right? You're known for that and your food. Also, wellness destinations. I mean, many of the best spas are here in Italy, but it really does help to shine a spotlight for the industry on Italy because when you're outside of Italy, there's so many countries that have strong wellness traditions, many in Europe, in Eastern Europe, and everywhere has wellness traditions. So it's nice to have sort of an Italian-centric approach.
Yeah, it's nice to have this kind of approach, but also I think that Italy has shown in the last 3 years that the hospitality industry is growing a lot here. A lot of brands are coming here, are investing in different areas of Italy from the south of Italy to the north, or like all around the Garda Lake, on the different, like on all the seas of Italy. So many places that are really growing. And I think that hospitality and especially the spa, the approach to the spa is completely changed. We already had some of the leaders in this, like the FI group that has beautiful hotel, which are like creating all their offer based and walk like around the spa. But there's more and more properties coming. So I think that we are really bringing the hospitality level in Italy to a completely different level. And I'm happy to, or at least I think I'm in a certain way, I'm helping this transition with this conference. This is bringing really great contents to.
For sure, there's been excellent speakers from around the world, and it's just lunchtime. We still have an afternoon to go. Let's talk for a moment about Lemmy, the company. You are the general manager of Lemmy. Your father started the company. How has this conference helped the growth of the company, or has it?
Well, of course, like we manufacture high level and high end spa table and spa equipment. So, of course, is let's say business wise, it's very important for us to raise the understanding of what's outside and what's happening in the world to all the spa industry in Italy. So he's helping us to promote and to show what the spa can achieve with the help of some like different equipments or new technologies and so on. We are present in over 106 countries right now. So I got the chance to visit like the most updated spa, let's say, worldwide during my travels. And I was actually wondering why there was only few spa reaching that level in Italy. But like, as I was saying, in the last 3 to 4 years, I've been seeing Italy growing so fast, and especially the spa industry in Italy has been really reaching a very, very high level right now. So I think we can do a lot, and I'm happy to be part of this development.
Well, I'm sure Italians are happy to have you leading it. I mean, it is, we heard from the tourism lecture this morning, the number 2 destination in Europe for wellness. I was a little surprised that Spain was ahead of it, frankly, because people know they'll get good hospitality here, good food, beautiful spas, nature, outdoors, sporting, all the things that you want. But you're right. We get to travel the world in our roles, and it is so nice that you're using that lens to bring back to your own country and your people what is possible. You know, you only know how to do something the way you've been shown. And when you start to see, oh, we can do different things, I think right now is a very exciting time in spa because the definition has gotten so broad. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we have, like, Italy has a very strong culture in about spa, but they were missing, I think, the link between spa and hospitality. And things are changing, and I've seen this link already in other countries, like in US. Even the US has a smaller tradition of spas compared to a lot of places in Europe. They are leveraging the spa way more in the hospitality industry. And I think what you can learn from this kind of travels, like from traveling the world, is, as you were saying, just seeing all the different approach that they have around the world. And yeah, our idea was to bring this kind of view here, and I think we're doing great, and the industry is really, really doing great. I'm so happy for that, and I'm happy that I don't have to travel anymore all over the world to find this kind of coherence and this kind of places where you can really relax and take like nice day off. As Emlyn was saying, not just go there to sleep, but to enjoy the place, actually.
Well, it's wonderful the role that you've played yourself and your company, Lamy Group, in making that happen here in Italy. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Matteo Brusaferri, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lynn.
So now we're here with Emlyn Brown, the Group Director of Wellbeing, newly appointed for Mandarin Oriental. Emlyn is here at the Wellness Hospitality Conference talking about wellness hotel design, which is a topic you're very familiar with. So thank you for joining us, first of all.
My pleasure, Lisa. Good to see you again.
You too. So it's been a busy day, and you gave us SRO lecture on hospitality design.
Yeah, an area that I've been working in for a number of years. So as you know, I started my career working in hospitality operations, then moved on to consultancy for 10 years. And then the last 6 to 7 years with Accor, I've been doing very much design, development, and conceptualization work. So maybe in this very small niche area, I've got a little bit of a depth of expertise without being too arrogant. Yeah.
Well, nobody's opening more properties than Accor, so you had a lot of time for that.
I did.
So how do you think it's changed design?
I think probably 3 or 4 areas. I think the first thing we're talking about within hospitality design for wellness now is moving away from what I call an amenity mindset, right? So historically, the hotel operations would be dominated and dedicated by a room type philosophy we call heads on beds, and room revenue and room profitability. I think what we're now realizing is that people are actually visiting hotels for many different reasons. One of them being to sleep and rest, but mostly is to live, right? And actually take part in what's happening in local community, or come for an incredible food and beverage experience, and most certainly coming there for an incredible wellness experience, right? So this idea of an amenity sort of moving away, people are realizing that the design of the wellness space, it really comes central to how they think and develop a hotel. That's a big shift, right? Secondly, I think that within certain locations, particularly urban and urban resort locations, there's a move now towards what we call club, not spa, right? So taking the ideas of the membership clubs and locations in the city and replicating those within the hotel. If you think about the fact that most hotels in those locations are incredible AAA locations, and they want to attract local clientele coming in, what better way to do that than through membership? And so we have the pool, we have the gym, we have the facility. We actually have a big box health club. So why not essentially create one, create more community, create people coming in, and most importantly, create more sustainable revenues that are more predictable than waiting for hotel guests.
Very nice to have a monthly recurring charge, right? Are there any certain amenities you need to have for members that you don't need if you don't have a membership program?
Well, it's a different scale for sure. I think that, in many cases at an urban hotel, urban resort hotel, would be building a great pool, a great gym, a great changing room area. They'll have spa facilities. But in some cases, they'll be spread across the location. Maybe the spa is in one space, the pool's in another, the fitness is another area. And so really what you need to do firstly is co-join them into one space, right? And speak to the developer and say, we need that. Secondly, you need to then have more direct access, right? So certainly might be on a lower level of the overall destination and planning. And that does require some thinking, some thought when it comes down to placing it. But once you do that, you're probably looking at slightly larger changing rooms, slightly larger thermal areas, depending on the numbers of members that you want to have, but really not too much of a stretch outside of the boundaries of what you would normally be providing for the hotel.
So how do you think about what's the capacity for members when you're creating a property?
Well, it's a bit of an art, it's a bit of a science on predicting that one. And I think that, when you're looking at a gym and a gym space of over 225 square meters, and when you're looking at maybe a changing room space about 75 to 80 square meters per gender, you could comfortably be handling 250 members. But the question mark is more about when they use it rather than actually the total number of members. So with smart ways of thinking about membership pricing, off-peak pricing, weekend pricing, and so on, where you can actually balance that against your hotel guest usage, you can actually push those others quite well. I think that the idea there is with membership is to have a strong base, probably more higher paying base than other health clubs, more privacy, more seclusion, obviously more credibility when linked to the hotel, rather than national lots of volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do want to not offend the hotel guests, right, who are trying to use the equipment as well.
Yeah, you do. But I think that, with the right planning, there's plenty of equipment for all. If you think about the hotel guests coming into a hotel fitness area, right? And that's going to be 25, maybe up to 35% of your guests in an urban location, urban resort location. That thing's going to get higher, by the way, as you have a younger demographic coming into luxury hotels. They're used to working out in busy gyms. They're at Equinox, they're at Third Space, they're at their boutique fitness class. They want to be around their energy of having other people around. And so gym etiquette about using equipment and so on always comes into fore. So if you're used to doing it at Equinox where you're paying $500, $600 a month, right? And you come to a hotel, of course you want access to equipment and not be overly loaded, but you also want to be around people who are exercising and moving, and that's motivating. And so thinking of the hotel gym, not about keeping it empty for hotel guests, it's a bit the same way as thinking about a restaurant and saying, we want to keep it empty for hotel guests. When you go into an empty restaurant, you don't feel very comfortable. And I think the same for level for fitness too.
That's a good point. And the younger people do want to be around others for sure. Lastly, let's touch on the fact that the spa is sort of moving away from being a certain area of the hotel. Not, here's the 3 treatment rooms and the door to the spa, and we keep it down there. And, spa and wellness are kind of creeping out through the property. How are you seeing that play out in design specs?
Well, I think there's probably 3. If you really want to touch the wellness and well-being of a hotel guest, you can do it through 3 primary areas, right? One's the movement piece. So I'd say that definitely a focus from us or from other operators is improving the fitness experience, making it bigger, different equipment types, different ways of thinking and working, because that's where 35% of your guests are going to be going. And so let's make that a really thematic and fun and dynamic space, not like the current hotel gyms are, but more aligned to what gyms look like in the high street. That's a big piece of area of play. The second area of creeping out of the spa, it's called moving from spa to wellness, is nutrition. Right. So how are we actually supporting the nutrition of our guests? There's massive changes happening with how people eat, GLP-1 use, different dietary elements, smaller plates, etc., lower alcohol consumption or no alcohol consumption. And so I think you really want to help the wellness and well-being of a guest. You do it through nutrition and food. Okay. Third area is how we do room design. Right. I think that's dramatically going to change the next 5 to 10 years, because making a room built to recover in rather than built to be luxury is 2 different things. If you think about how hotel rooms were built, they were designed to communicate a luxury experience through technology, through lighting, through bath elements, through different sort of sizes and scales. I think people now are seeing the hotel room as, how can I optimize the recovery within that space through the air handling, air quality, circadian lighting, different approaches to bathroom design, maybe placing in a cold plunge pool and an infrared sauna rather than a bath and a bidet, So I think you're going to see a dramatic increase there in those things, and also tech in the bed and recovering the bed. So that's the big piece of that. I think within the spa design, what you're going to see is, yes, of course, treatment rooms, but is there other ways we can monetize and create a space that can be monetized for a spa experience without delivering treatments? And yes, they were talking about the ideas of bathing, right? And how sort of thermal bathing, urban bathing on the pay-to-play model will start to influence how we think about and build hotels. And certainly within Mandarin Oriental, we have a number of opportunities to embrace that, where essentially you're saying, we take our 700 square meters of spa space, we do a thermal bathing experience, we actually charge our guests and our customers to come into it, all right? And within that space, you have a chance to do massages and different treatments. And so we're moving a lot more away from how many treatment rooms can we have to actually thinking about a much more thematic experience. But because you're exactly right, correct, yeah.
Perfect. Well, Emlyn Brown, we can't wait to see what you do at Mandarin in the near future. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm very lucky to be part of the group. It's been an exceptional 3 months and look forward to moving it forward.
Awesome. Thank you. So now I'm here with Lynn Curry, the founder of Curry Spa Consulting. Lynn and I have been colleagues for many years in this consulting industry, and it's so fun to actually be here at a conference with you in Milan.
It is, Lisa. It's so good to see you.
So wellness hospitality is your genre. I mean, you work in hospitality spas, hotel spas, casino spas, and you were invited here to speak on the topic of, design and when to bring in a consultant. Give us the snapshot of what you're going to tell the audience about what are the things you need to know to work with a spa consultant effectively.
Well, I think the first thing is to make sure that you have somebody on your team, whether it's an official spa consultant or somebody who's a previous spa director or a current spa director on your team that knows and understands operations backwards and forwards. Because the spa operation is a lot more complex than some owners or architects may think, just from the bird's eye view.
That's so true, right? I mean, they think, well, the person is in the room, their bedroom, their sleeping quarters for 8 hours or 10 hours, and they put so much energy into that. But there's not the interactions that you have in the spa environment where you might only be there for a few hours, but you have a few treatments, you have multiple staff members you're dealing with, you're disrobing, there's a lot of comfort factors to think about, and of course, flow.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point, because if you think about it, in the course of somebody having a spa treatment, they go through a lot of different experiences as they get there. They're at the busy front desk, the phone is ringing, they're checking in, they're wondering what kind of massage to get. And is the spa treatment menu too big and they can't study it, so then they have to be helped to choose their treatment. Then they're sent to a locker room where, like you said, they're disrobing, which can be uncomfortable in and of itself, especially if there are no little areas for them to feel private, right? And then, once their robe is on and all their personal items are tucked away in the locker, then they've got to go find the relaxation lounge to wait for their treatment. Now, what is that experience like? And what is the guest receiving to make them feel like they're getting the start of a special experience? And that's what I like to call the treatment with the treatment, right? What are we giving the guests besides just that hour on the treatment table?
Well, we do have to think about that. I mean, in spa management training, we map out the service delivery cycle of a guest from finding your spa online, maybe, to checking out. And the part where they're on the table is just a portion. I mean, there are so many interactions, as you say. So what are some of the common pitfalls people make in designing the spa when they don't realize how complex it is?
Well, the biggest thing is that budget was not planned appropriately. And many people don't understand the sheer cost of building a spa. And if you're going to start including thermal areas, the cost per square foot can be tremendous. So if you start thinking about those components, and we can get into the thermal areas too, about the flow and all of that as well. So when a guest goes from the locker room to the relaxation area, it's important that there's a really great training system that has happened, and hopefully by, your company, Lisa. To direct them on how to treat the guest from that relaxation lounge, and to comfortably get them to the treatment room, and to make sure that the spa is designed correctly so that when the guest is in the relaxation lounge, they're not crossing paths with other people. I mean, we've had reviews of site plans and we've had reviews of existing spas where sometimes your path from the relaxation lounge to the treatment room involves crossing paths with somebody that's just left the fitness gym, for example. Crazy things like that. So those kinds of problems and challenges can be mitigated so easily if the consultant is on board early on to really drive those design ideas and make sure they're correct.
Well, this probably happens when you have an architect who maybe hasn't designed a spa before or certainly hasn't been in one. I think that they don't know how the space is used and, they allot the right amount of room for it, but they're not thinking about the flow of the guests from entry to going. And let's face it, spa appointments are not inexpensive, especially in the kind of hotels you consult with. And, you don't want to be running into someone in street clothes when you're in your robe. It's definitely not ideal.
It feels awkward. Yeah, I don't know why that's awkward, but it is. Even though you might have just seen that person out, in their street clothes before, it just doesn't feel right. You want everybody to be nicely in the robe in those areas, and you want everybody to be in the gym where they need to be and to stay there. But the other big pitfall is the sheer amount of laundry that it takes. I mean, in a 10 treatment room spa, you could have 1,000 pounds of linen a day going in and out of that facility. Where's it going? Does the back of house have enough space to hold that linen? When the linen does get to the hotel laundry area, can it be accommodated? A lot of times we see that it's not even able to be accommodated. It has to get sent out. And that's a whole other can of worms, right? When you have to send your linens out and expense and you lose pieces, the outside laundry service loses pieces, or worse, even, this is a real life situation where sometimes spas get robes from other spas.
Oh my goodness.
They get swapped, so exactly. So, you have to plan that all in advance, even whether you're going to do laundry in-house or whether you're going to send it out.
Do you ever design a spa where there is a small laundry within the footprint of the spa as opposed to the big laundry for the property?
The only time, and we're talking about wellness hospitality, right? So we're talking about, wellness within a hospitality development. So the only reason you would do that is if you were in an ultra luxury property where you may be having to wash some items of a guest who may be bringing some special clothing or something. Or if you've got a beauty salon and you have, headbands and smocks and such to hand wash. It's nice to have a small washer and dryer in the back of house to wash the smocks for the facial room, for example. However, some spas don't need to use that because they've got, you've got the guest in the robe and then you tuck them into a nice bed where they're nice and warm and don't need that smock. So yes, the smaller items should never be going to the big laundry machine.
Because they often do not come back.
Yeah. Or they just get tattered and torn because of the temperatures of the water and such.
So what about thermal areas that you mentioned? I mean, they're all the craze now. Everybody wants social bathing, but they are more than 3 times as expensive as a typical spa, would you say?
Yeah, at least per square foot. So I would say the first thing is if you're going to do a thermal area, you have to do it right or don't do it at all. You're better off having nothing than having a facility that doesn't run right, where the systems are broken. You have to put a sign on your steam room that says your steam room is broken today. That's just terrible. So in order to do it right, you have to plan it in advance and you have to get a thermal specialist on board early on. And this talent of these thermal manufacturers and the designers they have on their teams is a very different skill set than what most architects and most contractors have, in that these people really understand not only the mechanical for the steam room, the sauna, the cold plunge, and the hot pool, but they also consult on the HVAC systems. And if you've got a cold plunge and a hot pool in the same room, your HVAC system is going to wreak havoc on the room and you might end up with windows full of condensation. So these are the kinds of things that get mitigated early. And we have seen over and over again that when a thermal specialist is not provided in the early stages of design to provide the mechanical drawings, that those facilities tend to not work as well a few years down the road.
And that's not a small thing to fix. I mean, you can't go and rebuild your thermal spa.
No. And sometimes, you're talking about jackhammering, and if you've just built a hotel and the spa is 2 years old and you got to bring a jackhammer in, that's a bummer.
Not ideal.
No, and expensive.
So, what other pitfalls do you see when the consultant is not brought in time?
Well, there's little things in the process that are recommendations early on and requirements, I should say, requirements for the equipment. They seem little, but they're major. Electrical outlets in the middle of the floor of each treatment room. That is a very typical thing that gets forgotten. Or even if the electrical outlets are on the construction documents for the middle of the floor, sometimes a contractor on site will think it's a mistake.
Right. They reuse that and they think, why would they want that?
Exactly. So then they think, oh, well, I'm going to save the owner some money and, not put those in. Those are the kinds of things. And that's why it's important that the consultant can go and do a site walk and have a punch list and, check for things like that to make sure that the power boxes are indeed in the floor and that each treatment room has its own HVAC system and that each treatment room has its own dimmer switches and each treatment room has its own audio for volume and channel selection. That's the other thing. You just don't want, you don't want your guests bringing in their own iPhones and then hooking it up to your, Bose stereo in the room. And then the phone gets forgotten. And then so it goes on and on, right?
Sure. What's your ideal timeline? Like if a hotel spa is being thought of or developed, when do they bring in a consultant like yourself?
We are usually on board with an ownership group for about 2 years from the time we start writing a feasibility study and doing a careful guest use analysis, getting through the initial concept and schematic design phases, all the way through to construction document review. That usually takes about 2 years. And then we encourage our clients to bring a spa director on 6 months before opening because we want to have a connection with the spa director so we can explain why things are the way they are, because in every building, there's always something that's quirky, or there might be a funny reason why that wall is the way it is, or a design was chosen for something because of a specific reason that, could kind of help tell a story.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever find that you have been brought in too late? I'm sure the answer will be yes.
Yes. And a couple of things happen in that situation. And it's really too bad because the first thing that happens is we have to tell them this won't work because of these factors. Now, if you do build it like this, this is what could happen. And an example is building a wet area that's in kind of a public space that's intended for men and women, but it's not close to the locker rooms. So now you have drippy people traipsing through hallways in drippy swimsuits to get to the wet area. So that would be one faux pas, right? And I can see why something could be designed that way because maybe the thermal area has this great spot with a great view and the locker rooms, we need those hidden because they're not that important, right? But it's really important that those places are tied in. And so then decisions have to be made. Do we want to spend the money to have the architect redesign the space? Or worse, if the slab is poured on the project, then that's more of a difficulty because then you can't add electrical to the floor or you can't. It's important to get the specialists on early.
Yeah, the message I'm hearing is ask now, don't wait till later. I mean, You spend money on consulting, but I'm sure any of us that work in that field would say we more than save you the money that you spend on consulting in making sure it's done right the first time and it will run efficiently from day one.
For sure. I mean, it's just imperative that somebody takes a look at it and understands it and helps the team understand how it's going to flow. And the other thing too is the ROI, because we know from industry's statistics and what we know in the spas we've worked on that, guests come back again and again because they feel comfortable. They got the treatment with the treatment. They become very loyal to that spa. As much as spa goers love to go and check out different spas and they like to try new spas and all that, they will return to the ones where they feel most comfortable. And that includes the part of changing out of their clothes back into their robe before they set out and continue their day.
All great tips, and the audience will really appreciate those. I've been impressed at this conference at the breadth of the programming. I mean, there's been architects here and operators and folks like yourself and people thinking about the future versus, how we're profitable now. And it's really been a nice selection of lectures.
I have enjoyed this conference so far. I mean, I've learned a lot. I've met new people. I've seen old friends, and it's just been a really nice time. And I appreciate getting to the chance to be here for sure.
Yeah, it's nice. It's something nice they're doing for Italy, bringing in what's happening in the rest of the world into Italy. Of course, it's famous for hospitality, and there are many wonderful spas here. But this is really shines sort of a global spotlight on what's happening, which is well-deserved.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Italy, and here in Milan, you've got these, at least there's two, I think, right? Two big termes, thermal parks that are giant and can have a lot of people here. And it becomes a very social thing. And I love that. And yeah, it's a really great thing to see.
Well, it's been great to visit with you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa.
So we're here with Laszlo Puczko, who is a wellness tourism advisor, well known around the world, and someone I always enjoy interacting with at conferences.
Likewise.
Good to see you. So, Laszlo, we're here at the Wellness Hospitality Conference in Milan, and you gave a lovely keynote telling us how we're all on a hamster wheel, basically. Could you explain more about what was behind your presentation?
Yeah, thank you. Of course, it's more like a borderline on a cliche saying that you're a hamster wheel. So you might say that what's new about that? The logic behind it was that what it represents more like than the hamster wheel suggests faster and faster pace, but still not moving or not progressing. You're still at the very same place, but running faster. And that suggests, according to the sort of sociological theories, that that also limits your chances for progression and progress and developments.
I liked your idea, like the hamster, because they're going so fast, but they're not looking out to the sides. You don't think of that.
And you can't, because if you did, you can fall over instantly, and that would be a major injury or more. So that's the idea, that not necessarily slowing down is the answer, but slowing down and also reacting, so as the philosophy suggests, resonating better to the outside environment and take the challenges and look into the options and having emotions and having uncertainty, which is a good thing because it inspires innovation, inspires thinking, inspires progress. So I was really inspired by this idea of resonance, and then the hamster wheel just came up as a interpretation.
You're great at those analogies that just make sense, right? Because we are all on hamster wheels.
Yeah, and then especially in the relevance of that in a hotel and hospitality and wellness event is that it seems that many hoteliers, owners, as well as operators, start to run very fast without necessarily knowing where they are running to and why they are doing that. And they get stuck in one tiny little road because they buy certain equipment, they follow some trend, inverted comma trends, which someone says it's a trend, but it's not quite a trend necessarily. Purchase expensive equipment, but they don't know why they have that equipment. Just because someone else has it doesn't mean that you have to have it. And what's the added value there, and what the conversion rate of the guests. So especially having technology, a lot of technology that doesn't necessarily have the evidence, doesn't have necessarily the data yet that actually does work, or that the claims are justified, what they say, especially with all the supplements and peptides and NADs and all of that. So the presentation was really asking all those questions that, how about not running that fast and look into cultural characteristics, look into what gyms are doing and not reinventing wheels, sorry for the pun, but kind of go back on what gyms are doing and just enable guests. So the end of the message was that hoteliers should be more like enabling as they call the wellness OS as an operating system, but the individual operating system, instead of every one of them redefining and recreating and inventing themselves, because that's could work to some guests to inspire them and then to transform them. But that's a very select few properties can do that.
It's hard for the owners though, right? Because, excuse me, they're always listening to what's new equipment. You see what your competitors are doing, and you end up chasing all of that and losing your own identity in the process. Do you think that many owners or developers don't have a clear sense of their core competencies, and this is why they stray?
They sense that there's something there, or there might be something there, or they even may feel the pressure that they should be jumping on bandwagons because that's what they read, that's what the platform they're following, this pushing in the faces of daily basis. This is the new thing that everybody does. So they fall, but don't necessarily think about how it is or should be incorporated into what they do, which is beds and F&B and banqueting and recreation and all of that, how it fits. It's just kind of throwing in new equipment and programs or treatments or whatever, but not looking at it in a kind of a helicopter view of, well, what is it? What's my DNA? What exactly I'm doing? And it includes large brands, for the matter, and also individual owners that run just one property because they don't necessarily know. And I find that hospitality advisors are good in hospitality. Many spa advisors are good in spa, as in treatment rooms and creams and suppliers and SOPs. But those who can link everything together, but is it a spa? Is it a retreat? Is it medical? Is it how much medical? That's a different level, and owners not necessarily resonating very well to that because that would challenge that discussion. I've had personally several times. They would find it very uncomfortable because they don't know. They kind of the ground start to shake and even what's that? What's happening? Is it rooms? Is it no? Is it spa? No. Then what? And then it starts to be a kind of a risky situation. So they instead just go for the sort of known.
So are you seeing that wellness is an integral part of hospitality development in the moment? Or are you seeing some properties opting not to go down the wellness road and just be regular hotels?
But even regular hotels, you by definition, the word hospitality is hospice, which means that you're looking after guests. So sorry, but that's you. If you look after guests, then you need to keep them well and safe and comfortable. So there you are. So every hotel would need to do that one way or another. Should you be labeling it as awareness? So that's a completely different story. I am very much advocating the idea that I can do all that many different tiny little things that end of the day will make me feel as a guest better or well, but I'm not labeling it. Every single time there's awareness. People do expect and do appreciate such micro changes or opportunities. They don't necessarily want to have awareness every single corner, but they appreciate the benefit of it. So I think the industry more like need to be aware of options of upgrading their provision. How they market it, that's a different story. May or may not be awareness. Of course, you have the extreme end where everything is about awareness and optimization of cell energy and all of that. But that's very much like healthcare or medical by now, which is fine. But that's a different model to develop.
Excuse me. If you have a hotel and you don't have a spa area, but you want to have, inverted quotes, wellness, what are some things you could do to make the guests feel cared for, in your words, but without having a dedicated spa facility?
You might even have a spa facility, but don't call it that way. Depending on, of course, location and orientation and sunshine and a lot of different things. this is when creativity comes in, and they say, well, you have just a room which is quiet and overlooking space, and this is just have a little me time. And guests want to do that. If it's people want to do solo experiences, then you do something. If you want to have couple or family, you do something. So every place can do something. You don't need to have a dedicated space. It's not the point. And dedicated spaces can also work, but could be just also extremely boring and not functioning as such and expensive to run. It's not the point. So that's why when we discuss it with owners, they say, well, don't tell me that you want to have a spa. Can we just go step back, like 3 steps first, and check how your behavior of your guest and the stays and what you want to get, what you want then to do and engage with, and then we create the opportunity for that. So it's not the space is important, but I like the equity idea that I create a situation that you can get the best out of yourself in a space, which is in a hotel. How we do it, that's the creative part.
And that's different for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Different guests have different needs.
Yes, of course, you need to kind of standardize a little, otherwise it's impossible to treat every single and cater for every single need. So you have to have a common denominators and brand specific, location specific, whatever. But this is the beautiful part, because you can create all that many different ideas.
Well, you're a wellness tourism expert, and governments and companies hire you to help them have a wellness tourism strategy. Are you seeing development focused on tourism specifically? And in your sector, I expect that's a big piece of it, right? It's bringing in people from other areas to a new area.
Yes, but it's either brand-led, so destinations inviting certain brands, hoping that would elevate the offer. That's one end. The other end is the capability development. So you train industry, hospitality, travel, wellness, whatever, introduce the opportunities, and then facilitate the creative work and create these new products. And that's I think I'm more on that side, because in my team in brands, it's relatively easy. You just have to provide the land, bit of financial incentive, there you go. But small and medium-sized enterprises and also family hotels and properties can really benefit from this enabled idea that they understand that, oh, I see, I understand the logic, and then I apply it to my certain circumstances. I think that's the beautiful part.
So when you're advising, do you focus on primary wellness or secondary wellness tourism? Do you differentiate those two?
I really don't like that.
No.
No, sadly, I know where it's coming from, and it's an invented new one. In tourism sector, no one uses those terminology, don't exist, but that's for a different story. I understand that the primary motivation is something, and also the wellness tourism is different from having a demand for wellness services. That's different. More people would have demand for wellness services than how many people are wellness tourists. So that's, again, I think you can do both. And I really see a lot of interesting development in the second part when you have smallish wellness improving engagements with guests. You call it micro experience. It's like a little kick, like half an hour, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, things which we may not sell it as wellness, but it could be culture, heritage, and F&B and fitness and whatever it is, I don't know. But the trick is to know how it works. Which pillar of wellness I am contributing to, the psychological, the physiological, the emotional. I know exactly how to, when we create programming, we know exactly which one I want to focus on, and then I create accordingly. So that's a choice. It's not by accident. And that's I think the more kind of innovative part and progressive part. The wellness tourism part, let's say primary, that's easier. The second part is more complicated but more beautiful.
That's funny. I would think the second part would be less complicated because it's part of everyday operation. It's not a single focus. It's more integrated, right, into the daily activities. But it's also not applicable if you're not in a primary tourism destination.
Yeah, your potential partners in the second is way more populous. So that's anyone the other actors, yeah. And also it gives more opportunities to entrepreneurs because often they say that, oh, well, this is just for the ultra rich. I can't afford it. I can't get involved. This is flying somewhere else. Introducing that every single property can take his or its or her part. For example, in one of the properties in Costa Rica, we said, well, we don't do electricity in the afternoon. We don't do hair dryers because you want to save electricity and be an eco hotel or whatever that is. Some people might say that that's a restricted offer because I do want to, But you can tell the story that you are saving, and then you don't necessarily because it does damage to your hair, whatever. So you can create the positive translation of something which otherwise people would feel as a restriction. And some of them might say, "Oh, I see. I get your point. I know why you're doing it." Not just, "Oh, why don't you have it?" Which obviously is not an awareness thing, but necessarily. But no, one way or another, you feel better. And this joy and feel part, and that's what I really like to contribute to.
Sure, that's important. That's what the guest remembers, right?
Yeah.
I like somebody said in the conference that the wellness isn't what you offer, it's what they remember when they leave. And I thought that was a powerful.
Yeah. And also talking a little bit about psychology. Short-term memory and long-term memory. With one of the clients, I find very, very hard them to understand that what people remember 3 days post-trip could be completely different from what they remember to 6 months post-trip. And I force them to define the 1, 2, 3 things they want. At least 85% of the guests remember 6 months post-trip. And then we work towards that. So we advocate the message and we reinforce because that's what people will remember long term. But that's a psychological effort of creating it. We're working with a tour operator at the moment of defining that. And then how the experience design, how it is going to support it, gives the foundations. And then 6 months later, when you ask, how was your trip back then? What do you remember? You should remember that. And that's work. It doesn't happen by accident.
No, it takes somebody framing it like you do. But I love that approach, having the owner think about what do you want the guests to remember in 6 months and working backwards from that.
That should come from your DNA. If wellness orientation was in your DNA, then it should, be represented in the experiences and the memories. And the memories are orchestrated. That's something that you do, but it's not a hospitality consultant job or a spa consultant job. It's a different kind of job. Of course, all of those would need to take part in it, but that's a different kind of thing, and that's owners not necessarily find it easy to relate to because it's new. It isn't easy.
Well, thank you for a mini master class in hospitality, wellness tourism, Laszlo Puczko. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.